Welcome to the 10-Minute Treasurer. My name is Jeff Pospisil, and this is now my final video for the Church Foundation series. So I've been working through a template that I have linked in the description on how to set up a church foundation, or maybe some ideas that you might take to how to improve how your church foundation runs. And so I just used the governing documents from a church foundation that really ran well. And this last one, we're going to be talking about conflict of interest and amendments. Amendments is the important one. Again, if you are looking at amending your church foundation bylaws, there hopefully is a clause in your current set of bylaws or in your articles of incorporation that shows you exactly how that process happens. So look for that if you are looking at amending yours. Otherwise, if you're starting a new one up, make sure that clause is in here so you know how to adjust these. So it starts off with the conflict of interest, that it just says that this happens. Basically, that's what it says, is that this happens. There are going to be conflicts of interest. Be aware that we're going to have family members working for people that maybe we want to do business with, or whatever. There are going to be conflicts of interest, because especially in the Dakotas, we're all kind of this small town atmosphere. We all kind of know each other, but especially when you're talking about either your own personal conflicts or conflicts within your immediate family. Those are the main ones that we are concerned about. The policy goes on and says, if there is a conflict of interest, you don't have to leave the board. Actually, we'll look first at how do we make such conflicts harmless to all concerned. So how do we neutralize that conflict of interest? That's going to be the main thing. So it's up to each board of director if they come across they say an actual or apparent conflict. So even if you're not sure, go ahead and disclose it. That is the best policy. If there's a conflict of interest, it is best to know that up front. Again, an actual one or an apparent one. And this set of bylaws, they set it up very clearly on how to do it. First of all, if we're coming upon some action and all of a sudden it comes to your mind that maybe this is a conflict of interest, your duty is to go ahead and pause and say prompt, full, and frank disclosure of that conflict of interest to the board or committee before the action is taken. So you want to go ahead as soon as you become aware of it. So as soon as you think, oh, we're going to be voting on a contract and I have a son that works for them, or whatever it is, maybe there's some kind of conflict of interest there that you're worried of. So it's your duty to go ahead and make a prompt, full, frank disclosure. And then the next thing is, after you disclose this, the rest of the body that you disclose it to, they're going to go ahead and take a vote on whether or not this does count as a conflict of interest. So they're going to be a little bit removed. They're going to be able to say, well, is this or is this not a conflict of interest? So if they vote and say, no, it's really not a conflict of interest, then you can continue to participate as always. But if they vote and say, yes, this is a conflict of interest, then you lose vote and voice for the rest of the discussion on this matter. So you lose vote and voice. You're not allowed to influence in any way. It's basically like you're just dropped off the committee just for that season. See, they even have it here where it doesn't even affect the quorum. So I really like that there's a clear method to how you deal with these conflict of interest, that there's a vote to either affirm it or to maybe declare that it doesn't exist, and then you can go on from there. And finally, we get to amendments. And why would you need amendments? Well, first of all, sometimes there's legal changes that you have to adapt to. Sometimes you're going to watch a series on church foundations and you're going to see an idea and you're going to want to change that. Sometimes you have some rules that they seem like a good idea, or maybe they were a good idea for a season, but no longer are they helpful, and you're just going to want to amend it. So it's important to have some kind of amendment process. And normally it's at the very bottom of your bylaws or your articles of incorporation, and it'll spell it out. In this case, I like it because, again, it sets up the church's boss, because the board of directors, they can go ahead and call a meeting, and by a simple majority, they can change the bylaws, but those bylaws changes do not become effective until after the charge conference of the church approves it. So again, the church is boss here. and the church will approve or they'll reject the bylaw changes. So this is an important one, because even as smart as we are, 100 years from now, who knows what the law will look like, and who knows how committees will run. I mean, even some of the simple stuff that we went through, electronic voting, electronic transactions, there's going to be different things in here that we'll just want to be able to adapt our bylaws so that we can adapt to the ministry environment. And that does bring me to the end. So this was a 7-part church foundation series. I hope it helps some people. And I just think there's a lot of value to having a church foundation, and especially to have it run well. I just love the idea of multiplying money. I love the idea of guarding that donor restriction and caring for that well, and looking out for the long-term interest of the church. So I hope this is a blessing to you. Until next time.